let's have a conversation around cannabis. Of course, Canada is one of the countries that's now legal in. There's a notification out by FINTRAC in 2022. How do you think this impacts high-risk businesses in Canada?
So I'll start off this one as well. Obviously, marijuana was legalized in Canada some time ago and created a market and industry for commercial interests to start up grow ops across Canada. There was some, speaking diplomatically, there was issues of execution of how this regime would kind of develop across Canada, where companies would legally obtain certification from Health Canada and all the other regulatory issues and start to grow marijuana for public consumption. Obviously one of the first rules was, because our neighbor to the south, it is not legal. US cash is not, they cannot use US cash. If they're using a specific financial institution, whether it's a bank or credit union. One of the biggest issues that was caused by the legalization of marijuana, number one, the supply and demand issue was not properly dealt with. So we still saw organized crime supplying marijuana to certain parts of the Canadian market that was not subject to Health Canada requirements. But also with the legitimate marijuana growing companies, ultimate beneficial ownership of those companies became a real challenge. We saw organized crime groups 1 or 2 steps back from the money. We saw various people in law enforcement roles assuming corporate security positions within these companies. It became very diluted. It became very muddy right away. And banks and other financial institutions had to really dig deep to see, okay, who ultimately benefits from this company? Where is the money actually coming from? Are people being used as straw investors or buyers? There was a lot of issues. There's a lot of conflict of interest. And as law enforcement started to delve into this, they saw organized crime behind some of that legitimate industry. And from a regulatory standpoint, for financial institutions, that creates a lot of issues in terms of EDD and CDD work with high-risk clients, just to start the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And those are great points, Cam. And, at my credit union, we do bank, legal cannabis stores and legal cannabis growers. But the EDD is the enhanced due diligence on that for account opening and for ongoing monitoring is tough. I think what's happened over, it started off and everyone made money before cannabis became legal, right? And now it became legal and there's not a ton of money. You're going to see, I think, a merger of cannabis organizations across Canada as they try to realize that they can't make money on their own because they need to become one, because the volume of sales is not there. So from my experience, unless you have a big volume of sales, it's hard to hide dirty money if there's no clean money coming in. At least it's harder to do it. And the government does have pretty specific regulations on, control over inventory control and logging that financial institutions can see and should see to make sure that, listen, if I report $10,000 in marijuana sales during October, then I better show that I bought $10,000 of marijuana from the government, right? And if I didn't, then where'd the marijuana come from? Because it could be coming in the back door from organized crime. So there is the ability. It's effort, right? It's effort. But it is a legal business in Canada. Whether you think it should be or not, it's legal. It's regulated. There's oversight. So I'm not a believer in refusing financial services for a legal business in Canada if you can find a risk mitigation strategy for it. And I'm hard pressed to not find a risk mitigation strategy. Sometimes that risk mitigation strategy is too expensive, right? So, okay, having oversight over business B is going to take us too much time and money to justify having business B on board. But I'm not scared of working with and finding ways to mitigate the risk of legal Canadian companies.
So it would be said that some institutions may shy away from it and not yes. on board those type of businesses. So I suppose that's part of an issue that could be difficult. Does that mean that it would cost more money for a business of such high risk to be entering into a financial institution? That they have less choice, I suppose.
It depends on where you go. Some companies will charge for that escrow risk. I know money service businesses, for instance, if you want to get an account, it costs you a lot of money. And because it's hard to find an account for an MSB, which is a legal regulated entity in Canada. And so the cannabis is getting better, right? At the beginning, it was hard because you had all these layers of oversight that financial institutions wanted was massive because it was brand new and scary. And we knew that the looming correspondent banking relationship with the US was right there to shut down our ability to move money. So we had to be very careful. I think it's not quite as onerous as it was. But there are or should be some, extra account fees included for those more demanding businesses, whether it's a cash-based business like a restaurant or a coin-operated car wash or cannabis.